He's coming again. Yes, we know. He's coming again. He's coming again. He's coming again. He's coming again. Yes, we know. He's coming again. We know. He's coming again. We know. He's coming again. He's coming again. Yes, he's coming again. He's coming again. He's coming again.
Hallelujah. All right, everybody that's watching all over the world. We have a Shabbat service here in South Florida. We're going to have a recap of this week's Torah portion with my friend Jacob. And then I want to give a little talk here. And so just sit back. We won't be replying to comments. And this is just for you guys that are looking for some fellowship today and want to recap of the Torah portion. Jacob's going to come on now, and then I'll be back. So thank you. Thank you. Come on, Jacob.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're starting a new book of Numbers. In Hebrew, it's called Bemidbar, which means in the wilderness. So that's the name of the portion, and that's the name of the book that we're starting. It's also called the Book of Numbers, and you'll see why. Or if you read it, you'll see why. Okay, so beginning in chapter 1, going to chapter 4, verse 20. Also, the Haftorah portion is found in Hosea 2, 1 through 22. So, and it's Torah portion number 34. Okay, so Numbers chapter 1. So it says in the second month, the second year after they came out of Egypt. So this is actually about 10 months after Yah makes the covenant with the Israelites, as recorded in Exodus 19 through 24. It's 10 months after that. He tells Moses to number them, the Israelites, according to the tribes, according to the 12 tribes. That's found in verses 1 and 2. So all the males are numbered from age 20 and up, which is also military age. That's found in verses 2 and 3. Then Moses and Aaron take 12 representatives from each of the 12 tribes. There's actually 2 from the tribe of Joseph for his 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. And then Levi is actually left out. So 1 is removed, and then 1 is broken up into 2 to give you a total of 12. And that's it. So and then they pick 12 representatives from each of these tribes. These 12 representatives are each called princes, over thousands, to help them count their respective tribe. So the 12 representatives of each tribe are going to help Moses and Aaron count their tribes, each one of their tribes. That's found in verses 4 through 16. Also in verse 19, we're told that this takes place in the wilderness of Sinai. So although it's 10 months after the covenant given at Sinai, they're still in the wilderness of Sinai when this census takes place. So then it gives us the numbers, the breakdown of each tribe not going to get into it for time's sake, the specific details. But what's interesting is there's another census given or taken 38 years later and recorded in Numbers 26. And it's just interesting when you compare the numbers from each tribe, you can see which tribe grew in numbers, and you can see which tribe shrank in numbers. A lot of them they shrank or increased in numbers very close, not too much variance. However, there's two tribes that I found interesting that decreased or increased quite a bit. It was a tribe of Simeon. They actually decreased in numbers, 37,100. And then the tribe of Manasseh, from Joseph, they actually grew in numbers by 20,500. And like I said, the rest of them, they varied a little bit, but close. Those are the two that are more extreme. So the total given is in chapter 1, verses 46 is 603,550. By the way, the total given in the second census 38 years later in Numbers 26:51 is 601,730. So about the same, right? 38 years later, they only lose about 2,000 people in the tribes. Okay. Next, Moses is told not to count the tribe of Levi because his descendants were to tend to the tabernacle and minister unto it, the tabernacle. And we're also told in later on that they're also to serve not only the tabernacle, but the Kohanim, the sons of Aaron, and also even the congregation. They're to serve the congregation. They're ministers to the congregation. That's found in verse 50. Next, we're told that the children of Israel encamped, each according to their tribes, and each encampment had its own banner. Except for the tribe of Levi, who camped in the middle, surrounding the tabernacle, with no banner. And that's found in verses 52 and 53. Also, in 53, we're told that the Levites were to safeguard the tabernacle that housed the Ark of the Testimonies. That's where the two tablets went inside the Ark, and known as the Holy of Holies. That's where it was kept, and the Levites are surrounding that so that nobody else can come near it. Okay, so now that brings us to Numbers chapter 2. Numbers chapter 2 gives a breakdown of the five different camps. First, you have the camp of Judah, which is to the east. With the camp of Judah is Issachar and also Reuben. So it's a total of 3 tribes together in one camp. It's all called the camp of Judah. And the numbers for each camp are given. Actually, the total number for the camp of Judah is 186,400. And that's in chapter 2, verse 9. Next, to the south, you have the camp of Reuben. That's in verse 10. And with the camp of Reuben, you have Simeon and Gad. So you have, again, 3 camps. So you have 4 camps surrounding it, 1 camp in the middle. So you start at the east with the camp of Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. To the south, you have Reuben, but with Reuben is Simeon and Gad. That's in verse 12 and 14. And then in verse 16, the total number given for the Reuben's camp is 151,450. Next, you have in the middle the camp of Levi, all by itself. It's, again, safeguarding the tabernacle. And that's found in verse 17. The number is not given because, as we already mentioned, the Levi is not numbered at this time. So the next to the west, so you have the east, the south, now you have the middle, and then now you have the west, which is the camp of Ephraim, verse 18. And with the camp of Ephraim is Manasseh and Benjamin. So you have Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin to the west. The total number in Ephraim's camp is 108,100. And that's found in verse 24. And then finally you have to the north the camp of Dan, verse 25. And with the camp with Dan is also Asher and Naphtali. So you see how the 12 tribes are broken down: 3 in the west, or 3 in the east, 3 in the south, 3 in the west, and 3 in the north. And then Judah is in the middle. Levi is in the middle. So in the total number in Dan's camp is 157,600. That's found in verse 31. Okay, so that's pretty much covers chapter 1 and 2. Next, you have chapter 3. So it tells us right off the bat that Aaron had 4 sons. Nahab, who was the firstborn son, and then you had Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. That's Numbers 3:2. These 4 men were the first Kohanim, or priests, aside from Aaron himself. That is that's found in verse 3. These men were also called. These were also the first men called Messiah in Scripture. They were anointed. That's what Messiah means, anointed. So David was anointed, but the priests were also anointed. And they're the first ones recorded in verse 3, and also in Exodus. It's recorded in Exodus 28:41 that the sons of Aaron were anointed messiahs. Okay, next we have verses 6 through 9, where Yah instructs Moses to call the Levites and present them to the Kohanim, to the sons of Aaron, to be their attendants and to perform the temple tabernacle services. At this time, it's a tabernacle. Next, in verse 10, the sons of Aaron are commanded to keep the office of the priesthood. Again, the priesthood, the Hebrew word for priest is Kohen, right? So the plural of Kohen is Kohanim. So that's the priesthood, the sons of Aaron. We're told also in verse 10 that anyone other than the sons of Aaron that come near to perform their duty must be put to death. Yah then reiterates that the Levites have replaced the firstborns as belonging to him. That's in verse 12. Next, a census is taken of the male Levites from a month old, or from a month and upward. Okay, and then that's in verses 15 through 39. The total number given is 22,000, even 22,000 from the male Levites a month and over. So by far it's the smallest tribe, right? Because the other count, each 30,000 up to 70,000, we're only counting 20 years and upward. This is counting all the children too, from a month old. So very small tribe. The male firstborns of all the tribes from a month old upward are then counted. That's in verse 40. And the number given for that is 22,243. That's in verse 43. Yah then reiterates that the Levites will replace the firstborns, and that their cattle will also replace the firstborn cattle of the children of Israel. Remember, when they came out of Egypt, God killed the firstborn of the males and of the cattle in Egypt, and saved and redeemed the firstborn of Israel. He saved them as long as they put the blood on their door. He saved them, and that, as a result of that, he instructed them to give the firstborn to him. And then later on, of course, we're told that they are to pay a redemption price to buy their children back. They have to dedicate the children to God, but then they're told to redeem, to buy them back. But now here we're told that the Levites are replacing the firstborn. And if we compare the numbers, 22,000 Levites and 22,273 firstborn, we see that the number is pretty close. So then what happens is the remaining 273, right? Because there's 22,273 firstborns and only 22,000 even of the Levites. So you have a remainder of 273. So what they do is they take 5 shekels for each of the remaining 273 firstborns. By the way, these are silver shekels. These are not the ancient silver shekels, but these, just to give you an idea, this is what they would be. Here you go. Just to give you an idea, that's about the weight of a silver shekel, each one. So there's 5 of them. So imagine that times 273, right? That's a lot of silver, right? And that's given to the Kohanim, Aaron's sons. That's recorded in verses 47 through 51 of chapter 3. Okay, next we have chapter 4 of Numbers. And pretty much just the 20 verses, verse 1 through 20, it just talks about the sons of Kohath, which is of the tribe of Levi. It speaks of them giving the charge to carry the tabernacle every time Israel were to break camp and to move, to journey on to the next place. And then I just had a couple of notes here just to close this out. But so that's basically the Torah portion, Numbers 1 through 4:20. But a couple interesting things to note is that there's a word translated poles, right? And not in every translation, mind you, but in Numbers 1:2, 1:18, 1:20, 1:22, and Numbers 3:37, they're all in this Torah portion. There's a word that poles, right? According to the poles.
Yeah, mine says poles. So.
Yeah, that word in Hebrew is Golgotha, which means skull. Golgotha is where that comes from, place of the skull.
So is that like a head count or something?
Yeah, by their head count, yeah, but it actually means skull.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Counting their noggins.
Yeah, it's interesting. Also, in chapter 3, verse 6 through 9, where it says the Levites are given to the Kohanim, the sons of Aaron, it says that they're joined to them. In fact, Levi, that's what it means to join to,
Yes.
and to be their attendants, the servants, right? And what's interesting is those two words, to join to and to serve, is found in Isaiah 56, 6 through 7, and that's talking about the Gentiles being grafted in to the tribes of Israel. And so this passage indicates, along with chapter Isaiah 61:6, indicates that the Gentiles that are grafted in, that are grafted into the tribes of Israel are actually going to be considered Levites. The same words are used.
They're joining. So
Yeah, and it even calls them ministers and calls them priests. Yeah, so it's interesting. Now, one other thing I wanted to note, two other things I want to note real quick is so I mentioned that the 4 sons of Aaron were all called were the first people called Messiah, right? Now, remember the first 2 are actually later on. It's told that they're killed because they offered strange fire, right? And then it says the second 2 took their place, and they were actually true messiahs. They, in a manner of speaking, they did not offer strange fire, and so this can actually foreshadow the fact that at the end times there will be a false messiah who comes before the true Messiah, and that's we're told that in 2 Thessalonians 2, 1 through 3. and they're going to offer a type of strange fire, or the abomination that causes desolation, abomination that lays waste. And then, of course, the true Messiah is going to come in his place, and they're going to, and the false Messiah is going to be wiped out by the coming of the true Messiah.
Amen.
So, and then one other thing in chapter 3, verse 38, it uses this word for sanctuary, or actually some translations even say temple, but the word there in Hebrew is mikdash, which, as you can see, is related to the word kodash, which is holy. And so sanctuary, or set apart place, holy place. They are to guard the holy place. It's interesting because this same word mikdash in Hebrew is used in Isaiah chapter 8, verse 14, when referring to Yeshua, the Messiah. It says that he is a mikdash, but also a stone of stumbling to those who don't believe. So it's interesting. It's the same word used for the holy place and for the Messiah. Which, of course, that does not say that Messiah replaces the temple, the future temple, because we read in Isaiah 60, verse 13, and all over the place in Ezekiel, towards the end, that there was going to be a last temple there. But I just found it interesting how the Messiah is called the sanctuary, which is the same word used in Numbers 3:38. And the last but not least, I just had one more thing to pass around here. And basically, I'm sure you've heard, well, maybe you haven't heard, but if you were to have an aerial view of the encampments in the wilderness, and it gives the numbers of all of them, and if you were to try to imagine what it would look like from an aerial view, it's been said that it resembles across, who is it? Chuck Missler said this. And so I just had a couple of images to show you that basically, yeah, not for you guys, but for here. And basically, there's one type of way that you could try to get it to try to look like a cross, but more than likely, it doesn't look like that at all. It looks like there's two figures, figure 1, figure 2. More than likely, it would look like figure 2 from an aerial view. So I'm just going to pass it around, and then that's it. That's the Torah portion. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a comment on chapter 1, verse 54, and I'd like to point this out, because however short-lived it may have been, they're in the wilderness, right? And the children of Israel did according to all that Yeshua commanded Moshe, they did, right? That means that's proof, according to the scriptures, contrary to modern Christian doctrine, that you can't keep the commandments, right? They did all that Yeshua commanded Moshe, right? In that verse, and it's repeated again in chapter 2 and verse 34, and the children of Israel did according to all that Yeshua commanded Moshe. So 2 different places in this reading today, they did all that
he wrote down too.
Well, like I said, however short-lived it was, there was a period of time there that they were obedient to the word, you know. And you can do it, is the point.
For those of you watching online on YouTube, we're going to stop this and come to part 2. We're going to post part 2, so just join that. We'll be doing that in a moment here. All right? Thank you.